So one thing the thing that I want to do now is I want us to generate randomly 10 bombs that we're gonna put randomly in each of these, in any of these cells. So why 10 is because when we're playing an easy game, such as here, we start with 10 bombs. Let me just show you guys. Yeah, we got 10 bombs randomly generated here. So before I do that though, I want us to stylize. Look at what happens to this button when I click it. It goes down, and such as these goes down too. So that's what I want to do. So the way that I am going to do that is I am going to put an on click. So let's do that right now. Let's see. Instead of an on click, actually, let's go to our button file, our button SASS file, and we are going to put if this is active. That's a pseudo class. That active is true. This appears when it is pressed. So then I just want to flip the borders. So what were the border colors originally? Let's go to my SASS styles file. And if you look here, originally the left top was white and then right bottom was that. So I want us to flip that. So let's grab these, go to our button, go here, and grab also the border top color. And I'm gonna flip these. So bottom and right will be white. Bottom and right will be white. And left and top is going to be 7B, 7B, 7B. So we're just gonna flip them like so. Let's see if that works. So this should work for our buttons. Yep, you could see these being pressed. Oh no, this is the actual game, sorry. Let's go to our app. And you could also see our app getting pressed too. So that is good. But this one is not getting pressed yet because this is actually another component. And because we're essentially going to be doing the same thing, let's make this a mixin. So I'm going to make a new mixin here, mixin button. I'm going to call it buttons. And for this one, what I'm going to put is just, I'm going to grab this part here, all the active pseudo elements, and put it inside our mixin buttons like so. That way, if we call it such as here, it just copies and pastes all of this inside. And this @ symbol, by the way, means the current element that we're in. So the way that he interprets it is, he interprets it like so. So remember we had this, right? And then all the border right and border bottom stuff. What this does in SASS is it just gets the current element. So this one, the outer selector. So that's essentially what it is. All right, so that's good. Let's see if that still works. Yep, it still works. Now let's bring that over to our app SASS file because we're going to be doing that for the face. Include buttons, and that click works too. So that is good. All right, now that we have that set, I want us to randomly generate all the bombs here. So the way that we are going to do that is we are going to go to our generate cells file in our utils here, and notice what we're doing here. So here we are generating all cells. And once we have done that, we are going to randomly put 10 bombs. So And I don't want to hard code in 10 bombs because, again, if we decide to add in a difficulty level later, we could have 10 bombs, 40 bombs, 99 bombs. So I should have called them mines, but whatever. Let's do that now. So I'm going to have a type here. I'm gonna go to my constant variable or constant file, and I'm gonna export another constant. Export const number of bombs, and I'm gonna write 10 here. And then going back to my utils folder, I'm gonna import that from our constants. No bombs, number of bombs. NO stands for number for short. And then let's try that. So let's see. Bombs placed. I'm gonna start out as 0 and we're gonna add them one by one. So I'm gonna do a while loop while bombs placed is less than number of bombs. I'm gonna do a while loop. So the way that I'm gonna do this is I'm going to grab a random integer from 0 to 9 for the right now we just gotta have break here because it's just going on an infinite loop. Let's see. All right, I just commented this out and I just restarted my server and everything seems to be working. So I'm gonna uncomment this and we are going to accept my notes here. And we are gonna start filling in 10 random bombs. All right, so let's do this. Get a random row. The way that we're gonna do that is math.floor and then math.random times 9, or in this case we don't want to hard code it, max rows. So that will give us a random number from 0 to 9. 0 to 9. 0 to 8. Sorry, 0 to 8. And those are the index of our rows. This way, And const column, same thing. Max calls. And then, see, I am randomly putting, by the way, this is not gonna run, but ignore that for now. I am randomly putting 10 bombs anywhere. But we could be that accidentally we first grabbed this cell and put a bomb there. And then on the next iteration, we got the same cell. We don't want to put in 2 bombs in one place. So we gotta make sure that the current cell that we're in, so let's just extract that out right now. Current cell is going to be cells at row and at column. If the current cell that we got, the random cell, has state of cell state, I'm sorry, value triple equals cell value of a bomb. That means we've already placed a bomb there. Then we're just gonna continue, meaning we want to go through the loop again and find 2 random row and column numbers index again until we find a place where it doesn't have a bomb. Or we could just do this. If it does not equal, then we want to do something. Otherwise, don't do anything because it goes back to the loop. Get a new row, get a new column, and then find it until we get a place without a BOM. If that is the case, then we want to do this. We want to fill up, replace our cells right here that we defined. For that row and that column, we want to replace it with cell value dot BOM instead. So this is very tedious to do this, but the way that we can do that is doing this bunch of map functions. So we can do cells. Let's see. I'm going to replace this const with let because I'm going to redefine it because we're going to replace our object essentially. We're going to change its value. So we're going to do cells is equal to cells.map, and in the first iteration we're going through all the rows, row index, and then afterwards we do row.map, and then we're going to get each of our cells, column index. And for if the current iteration, so we're not changing any of the cells except the one with the row of this and a column of this. So if row is equal to row index and column is equal to column index, then we want to do something. And why is this complaining? In cell and number, that should not be. Yeah, this is a number. Row is, oh, sorry. So for some reason, he does not think that this row is talking about this row. So we should probably name this up to something else because he's currently getting confused with this row here. So let's call this, let's just grab this one and this one. We're going to rename it as random row. And this one and that one, we're going to rename it as random column. So if the random row is equal to the row index and the random column, by the way, this is the good thing about React, about TypeScript. The fact that we use TypeScript, it gave us an error. If it didn't, it wouldn't have known. So we would have been using this row to compare with the row index, and it will always be false because our row is actually an array, a row that is defined here. So this is one of the reasons why I wanted to use TypeScript for this project. So if that is equal, then we are replacing that element with, I'm just going to spread cell all the properties. No, I don't need to spread. There's only two properties here. Actually, I'm going to spread them. So spread them, but replace the value with, override it with cell value dot BOM. Like so. Otherwise, if it's not the current, the random row and the random column, then we're just going to return the such stuff. It remains unchanged. So let's see if that put 10 random BOMs somewhere. How are we going to know that? By doing this. Oh, and by the way, once we have done this, once we have added the BOM to our random row and our random column, we want to decrease our BOMs place variable here because we have placed the BOMs. So we're going to add it by 1. Not sure why that's giving me an error. Oh, it's because I misspelled it. It should be that. And I just want to make sure that it's in the current, yep, it should be inside this condition because that's when we actually place a BOM. Refresh the page. Let's see what we get. All right, so that seems to be working. Let me just console log our cells. So I'm going to go back to our app index. I'm going to console log our cells just to make sure that we have 10 BOMs. I'm not actually going to count them, but if I see a couple of them have BOMs, then I know it worked. So here is my console log. by the way, this is a good time to go over enum. So notice we have a couple 9s here. So that's good because 9s represent the bumps. Now, why do we have 0s everywhere and 9s at the place where we have bumps? Let's go to our types. And notice we didn't assign anything to these enums. So if we don't assign anything, they default as the first element defaults as the number 0, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and this one becomes 9. That's why it is 9, and that's why everything else has 0. Same thing with the self state. The first one is 0 by default. So that's good. Let us display. I'm going to pretend that everything has been pressed just so that we can stylize it. So later, I am going to, let's go to our button, and I am going to do this. Let's see. Let's pass in some props to our button. So going back to our app index, we are going to pass in a couple props. So let me erase the console log. And let's go to our render cells method, because within here we have the button. And what are some of the props that we can give it? So I am thinking one thing we could give it is the row index. I'm just gonna call it row index. Right now TypeScript is complaining to me because I didn't define these in an interface, but we will do so in a bit. Column index, and then let's just introduce a type. So go back to my button. I'm gonna define an interface called button props. These will be all of our props. We have row, which is a number, is an index of the row, and column, which is also a number. And we are gonna give this a generics, which is button props. And we are going to immediately destructure all of our props like so. Yep, now it is working. And then we're gonna give it a couple more props. I'm gonna give it the actual cell itself. So cell. I could give it cells, or I could destructure the cells. So I'm actually going to destructure the cells. So this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna give it a state prop, and that is from the cell from this iteration dot state and value, which is cell dot value. So essentially I just destructured it. State and value doesn't exist yet. So let's do that. Button state is gonna be cell state. So you have to import that by the way from the types. Bring that over here, and value is cell value. Make sure you also import that up here from the types folder, and let's destructure that right away. State and value. So this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna give a conditional class to our outer element if it is open. So we are going to say, we're going to make this into an ES6 because we're going to use string interpolation. And to use string interpolation for class name, we have to use curly braces. And inside, put a space. We are going to say if state is equal to cell state open, then we are going to give the open class name, otherwise nothing, like so. So this is a ternary operator. If this is true, if the state is open, we're going to give it an open state, otherwise nothing. And we choose, because nothing is open, because we have defaulted in our utils to make the state open. Actually, I'm sorry, it should not be open. We want to stylize the visible. That's why these words, these definitions these names that I've given is not that good. If you could think of better names, feel free to change the names, but I'm just gonna stick with these for now. Go back to my button, and instead of doing open, I want to say if it's visible, then I want to give it a visible property. But because nothing is visible, because we have defaulted such that nothing is defaulted, just nothing is visible, just so that we could stylize it, I'm gonna default it as visible. And I'm gonna write a to-do here. Make this open later, like so. All right, so now they're all open. They should all be open. So if, going back to my button, if it's visible, then we have a visible class to our button. So let's put that in our button SASS file. We're gonna say if in itself and is visible, then what styling are we gonna give it? Button visible right here. Let me bring this over here. We have a border color of 7B, 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 and border width becomes smaller, as you can see here. We don't have that 3D effect anymore. 1 pixels. Let's see what we have. Yep, so it looks like they're all pressed, but it looks like they're all empty. That's not what we want. We want to display the contents inside. So going back to our button, we are going to not make this a closed div, a closed JSX tag, but one that has contents inside. And inside, I'm gonna put a method that I'm gonna create called render content, like so. We're gonna define that here. Render content doesn't take in any parameters, but outputs a React node, a JSX element. And we are gonna do this. If state is, let's see, what are the various contents that we can display? If we can do this, state is cell state visible. First, let's check to see if it's visible. If it's not visible, but rather else if state is cell state flagged, then we want to display a flag, but I will do that later. Display a flag here, emoji here. And if both of those are not the case, I am going to return null, meaning nothing's gonna be there. Meaning if it's open, then don't show anything. But if it's visible, we have a couple conditions. If the value is, let's see, what can we do? Let's do this. If the value is cell state bomb, cell value bomb, we are going to return here a bomb. Return, and do you remember that warning we got with the emoji before? We had to wrap it in a span. So let me go back to my app, get this, copy it, the span, and return it when our value equals a bomb. Except aria label will be bomb. And let's grab our bomb, show emoji symbols, bomb. Oops, put it here, like so. There we go. Well, let's see how many bombs we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's good. And if you refresh, yep, they go in random places. I don't like how they're kind of left shift, they're in the left. So I'm gonna add styling to our button SASS file. And I'm gonna grab the span, because whenever there's a span, we know we're dealing with icons. So put put a span inside the outer button. So because it's a additional class, it's another element inside the button class. I mean, we're gonna just leave it like that, and we are gonna say margin left is 2 pixels and font size is 12 pixels. Let's see if that makes it look better. Refresh the page. Yep. No, that does not look better. And let's see why. I'm going to inspect this style and see. Yep, it seems like we have it, but I think for the BOM, that wasn't the correct size that I want. I think this was for not for BOMs, but for flags. So let me change it up a little bit. Yeah, here it looks a little different. I'm gonna do this, by the way. I'm gonna say text, make this display flex, justify content center, align items center. That makes it look better. All right, I'm not sure if this was necessary, but we'll just leave it in there for now. And then that seems to work. Let's also say, I'm gonna deal with the flag now. If it's flagged, we are going to return not a BOM, so copy that, because we're gonna be returning another emoji. That emoji is a flag, a red flag, this one. Like so. Let's see if that works. Obviously we don't have any flags here. So to test out the flag, by the way, we should call this a flag. To test out the flag, we'll just leave it like this for now. We'll test it out later once we start adding the functionality of a flag. So now I want us to do something that is fairly difficult. We want to give numerical values to the ones that has BOMs next to it. So for example, this one has 1 BOM adjacent to it, this one. At this cell, we have 3 BOMs, 1, 2, 3. And at this cell, we also have 3 BOMs, 1, 2, 3, the corner counts. So that's what we want to do. So let's go to our utils index. We have first generated all cells. And then second, by the way, remember this to do, don't forget this. Randomly put 10 BOMs, which we did. Now, after we have randomly put 10 BOMs, we are going to calculate the numbers for each cell, meaning if they have BOMs next to it, then we're gonna give them numbers. So, and we have to do that for every single cell. So we have to do another for loop, a crazy for loop. Let's do that here. If, no, not if. We're gonna go through each cell. So for let I is 0. Do I want to do that? Yes, I want to do that. I want to do a traditional for loop. So we'll do let row. Do I want to use row? I want to use row index. Row index is 0. Row index is less than max rows, and then row index plus, and then for let call index is 0, call index is less than max calls, and call index plus. Now we're gonna loop through and get each one. So our current cell is cells. Is that what I called it? Cells, yes. Cells at row index and at column index. And we are going to grab every single adjacent cell. However, we have a couple problems. if it's, for example, this cell, it doesn't have a top left corner one. It doesn't have a top one. So we got to take that into consideration. So we have to do this. Let's see. First of all, if it is a BOM, then we don't need to calculate anything. So if current cell value is cell value of BOM, then don't do anything. We don't need to change its value. Then we just do continue. Go to the next element. Otherwise, we're going to do stuff. So we have to count how many BOMs it has adjacent to it. So let number of BOMs, we'll start it at 0. And we got to grab every single cell if one exists adjacent to it and see if it is a BOM or not, and then add it up. So, this will be tedious. So let's do this. Const, I'm just gonna do top left BOM. That's gonna be a cell only if, or null, because it could not exist. It doesn't always exist. For example, this one. So top left BOM is going to be, let's see. We first need the condition, the row index must be greater than 0. Because if it's at 0, if the row that we're dealing with is 0, it cannot have a top left BOM. And the column index must be greater than 0. Because again, if the column is 0, it cannot have a top left index. Then grab, let's see, cells at row. And whenever you write this, write very carefully. If you make one mistake here, it's going to be such a pain to fix, to find. So let's do cell in row index -1 and column index -1. And we're just going to grab every single one. So top BOM. What are the conditions we need? The row must be greater than 0. And column, there is no condition. Because as long as your row is not here, you always have a top. So if that is true, grab cells at, oh, by the way, we need a else condition. If that is not true, make it null. So top BOM is going to be cells at row index -1 and column index or null. Const top right BOM. What are the conditions? Row index must be greater than 0 and col index now must be less than in this case 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It has to be less than 8. So the way that we're going to do that, by the way, it has to be less than 8 because if it's here, it cannot have a top right. So column index has to be less than col max or max column. I think that's what it was called. Max cols -1 because that's 8. It cannot be 8. Then cells, if that is true, row index -1 and then col index +1 now. That's the top right one or no. And let's get the left BOM. What are the conditions then? The col index only has to be greater than 0 because if it's here, it just has to not be the 0th column. And if that is the case, then let's grab it. And again, be very careful whenever you're writing all of these indices. One mistake is going to be such a pain to find. Row, no. Yeah, it's just going to be row index, same row. However, the column is going to be -1. Or if it doesn't exist, then null. Const right BOM. What are the conditions here? Then just the col index has to be less than max cols -1. It just cannot be at the very right here. Then cells at row index, col index +1. If that doesn't exist, then no. I mean, if it's here, then no. And we got 3 more to go. Bottom left BOM. What are the conditions here? We need the row index to be less than max rows this time. Again, don't get these confused. Max and columns and max rows right now. -1. And because it cannot be the last one. And col index must be greater than 0. Because if it's here, you can never have a bottom left. Then cells, row index +1, and col index -1, or no. Const bottom BOM is, let's see, what are the conditions? Row index must be less than max rows -1. Spelled row index wrong. And that's it. As long as it's not in the bottom row, we're fine. Then cells at row index +1, col index, or no. Const bottom right BOM. It's gonna be, what are the conditions? Row index must be less than max rows -1, and col index must also be max columns -1. It just cannot, if it's here, it can't have one. If it's on this one or here, we cannot have a bottom right. Cells at row index +1, col index +1, or no. All right, so we are done with grabbing every single BOM if they exist, if they're not in the edges. Double check, triple check to make sure that you have written all of these correctly, because again, it's going to be so hard to find out if you have a mistake somewhere here. So make sure you double check. Yeah. Hopefully you guys wrote it correctly. So now let's add up the number of BOMs. So how are we going to do that? Let's do this. If top left BOM state, if top left BOM exists, because it might not exist, and top left BOM has, by the way, how did I know to do that? Because right now, if you look at my WebStorm, it's putting a question mark here, meaning it might not exist because top left BOM itself might be null. For example, if you're here, it's null. This is another benefit of TypeScript using TypeScript. It gives us these hints. So if it exists and value is cell value BOM, then we gotta add up our counter, number of BOMs ++. By the way, there's a shortcut to check this. It's new in TypeScript 3.7. It's optional chaining, and that is this, like so. What this is saying is it's essentially the same thing as this. It first checks if this exists, then do value equals that, or then this becomes false. We have that. Now another if condition. Make sure this is not an else if, but another if, because we can have more than one BOMs. Top BOM value is cell value.BOM, number of BOMs ++. If top right BOM value is cell value.BOM, number of BOMs ++. We're gonna have a couple more of these. I'll just copy and paste these. Top left, top right, and then left, and then right, and then bottom left. Oops. I just gotta grab these. Bottom BOM, and bottom right. So that should give us a number from 0 to 8 for number of bombs. All right, again, make sure that these are all correct. And then if number of bombs is greater than 0, then we have to change our cells. We have to change this value, because everything right now that is not a bomb has cell state.visible. So we want to change, the value here. We want to change the value. And by the way, I spread the cell here because I was thinking of something, but I think that makes it a little bit more confusing. Why don't we be more explicit and just write? Because the only thing that we want there is just a state. That's the only thing that we were spreading. And we could just grab that by doing cell.state, like so. I think it's better to be, actually, it seems like now we're changing the variable state. So let's just make it back into the structuring, like so. But just keep in mind that we are doing the same thing. You could write this, or you could write what I just had a couple of seconds ago. It's the same thing. So if it's greater than 0, we are changing that value. Now, in order to change that value inside, we have to, actually, we could just do this. Cells at row index at col index, we're gonna change this to what? Keep it the same. Let's see, I took out the variable current cell, so I could just use current cell now. Well, this part I'm gonna leave it like this, but this part I'm gonna use current cell. Spread that just like before, just like what we talked about, except our value is gonna be now cell value. Let's see. We are just gonna do number of bombs here. Now, why does this work? Because the number of bombs, let's go back to our types. You see here, the number of bombs is either going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 8, in number form, not in a string form like this. But because we didn't put any values to these enums, they're going to default to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So these align with those numbers. That's why we could do that. So that is good. Let's see if that worked. Nothing changed, but if we go back to our button, and let's do this. If it's visible, do this. If it's flagged, do this. Else if state is, no, sorry. Let's go inside our visible state. If it's a bomb, return that. Otherwise, we can assume that it can't be a flag, because if it's flagged, then it's not visible. We cannot flag a visible place or cell. So we can assume if it's not a bomb, then it's one of the numbers. So we could just return the number itself. So return the state, no, the value, I mean. So that will be a number, a literal number. Let's see if that works. Yep. And it seems like all of our numbers are in the correct place. Correct. So 2, 2, 2. Yep, 4. This one has 4 next to it. So this seems to be working. Now let's stylize this real quick. By the way, we do not want to show 0. So for zeros, we want to do this. Where can we go? If it's visible, do that. Otherwise, return the value. We're also going to do else if value is cell value. None. I think that's what it's called. Then return null. put anything there. Other than that, see, now it looks cleaner. Yeah, it looks much cleaner. So let's stylize these. Now I Googled the colors of each of the numbers, and these are the standard number colors. So let's do that. And how are we going to do that? We are going to add more conditional classes to our button. So to the right of this, which we gave a visible class, if it is visible, we are going to give another state, another class, I mean. We're going to say if, let's see, no ifs. This one will always exist. So this one is going to be ES6 string interpolation, and we're going to say that this class name is this. Value dash value. So it'll be value dash 1, value dash 0, value dash 9, or whatever. And that way we can grab each value classes and then stylize them accordingly. So this is my button class. We're inside the button, so we could have the class button and also value 1. That is this one, and that is going to be color blue. We're going to have 8 more of these. We could also have value 2, which is, let me make this, no, not like that, like this. Color is green. Value 3, color is red. Value 4, color is purple. Value 5, color is maroon. Value 6, color is turquoise. Value 7, color is black. I don't need to write that because default is black, but whatever. Value 8, color is gray. All right, so now let's see if that worked. Yep, it seemed to work. However, I like to have my font weight bold. So let's go back to my base button class and put a font weight bold. Yep, that looks a little better. So, and I like things alphabetized, so I'm gonna alphabetize these. This is completely optional. Just my OCD kicking in. There we go. So this is looking pretty nice. So I'm pretty satisfied with this too. So let's save this. Git add dot. And before we save it though, because remember what we did. We defaulted everything to be visible just so that we could style it. But now that we have finished styling, we could change that back to what it should be. Remember this, to do, make this open later. We will follow what it says and make it open and erase the to do. And if we do that, yep, now everything is hidden. That is very good. Now let's do git add dot commit. What should we call this commit message? We will call it finished generate cells logic. And styling, no, we don't need to write that. We'll just write it like this. And then git push.